Early August 2000, in New York, Edward Said gave this interview titled My Right of Return to Ari Shabik. It was subsequently published in the Arts magazine. Said later wryly commented, "What is striking about such an interview is that it could, and of course did, appear in an Israeli daily, but certainly not in a US equivalent." We have chosen this interview as the subject of today's roundtable discussion, a pre-conference event on the occasion of the third Critical Studies Conference, which begins tomorrow and continues for 2 days on the theme of empire, states and migration. I am sure that today's discussion will throw light on many aspects of forced migration and the question of return in a way that will confirm the appropriateness of our choice of this interview as the curtain raiser of the conference. I am equally sure that all the 4 panelists will have unexpected shafts of light on this interview, which is nothing short of being a historical-political statement or testament of whatever Edward Said had represented as his belief and commitment in the late 20th century and the early part of this decade. This evening we have with us, and it is in this order that I shall request the panelists to begin their introductory comments. Shobrosati Basurai Choudhury, a political scientist of Kolkata, whose writings on refugees and the right of return have been published by the Calcutta Research. Pradeep Kumar Ghosh, who is a well-known social anthropologist, again from this city, and whose fine philosophical sensitivities mark him out as a social scientist with acute insights. We have then as the third panelist, Brett Nielsen of Sydney, whose works on globalization, transnational flow of labor, and the production of the cultural modes of crossing boundaries, translated in several languages, making an exciting cultural theory, much different from the usual crowd of what passes on as cultural studies. And finally, we have with us today Stephen Wright from Paris, who is a philosopher of aesthetics and art, and an editor, literary translator, works in several languages, and whose arguments on themes such as partition, mobility, and epistemic commons make him a speaker whose voice we must listen to attentively. All 4 of them work in more than one language, a particular quality needed to appreciate Edward Said. To say the least, the piece we are going to deliberate on today is political yet sublime. It tells us in course of conversation how injustice produces lines of difference. The dialogue, while being enacted, underscores at the same time the power of difference to produce affinities and therefore possibilities of reconciliation. The interview, as you know, speaks of anger, not hatred. Difference but not complete negation. Reconciliation, of course, being subject to what we can call historical admissions. So who is then a refugee? What of his or her right of return? A return which is collective at the same time individualized, as Said emphasized by the use of the word my right of return. Therefore, a matter of physical at the same time spiritual. A right which will not be necessarily exercised but must remain with me. We have here a testament of mobility that is produced under duress but producing in turn conditions of negotiating that duress. It is a perfect piece that will stimulate our feelings of politics and aesthetics both. Said makes this possible. You can almost feel the way he does it by negotiating the words as if they are vines on the way and difficult turns, because I feel he is making here the most astounding attempt to overcome colonial burdens by proposing a sort of politics that has deep ethical undertones, and therefore, while waiting for his imminent death, he has the ability to laugh at the postures of dominant.